This is a continuation of the Pokemon responsible for changing game mechanics video I made a few months ago, so make sure you watch that one first. Something that many of you mentioned in the comments from that video was that it didn't really make a lot of sense to include a Pokemon being responsible for the nerf of its own signature ability as an entire mechanic change, which I agree with. So for this video, I'm going to do a quick lightning round of signature abilities or moves that got changed and then move on to more widely spread game mechanic changes. Starting off, we have Ash Greninja getting an entire rework of how Battle Bond works. In Generation 7 and 8, Battle Bond worked so that when Greninja knocked out a Pokemon, it would transform into Ash Greninja. This was changed in Generation 9 so that it no longer transforms into Ash Greninja and instead receives a +1 boost to attack, special attack, and speed once per battle. Mimikyu's signature ability Disguise was nerfed in Generation 8 so that it takes 1/8 of its max HP when the disguise gets busted, instead of taking no damage like it did before. Urshifu's single strike signature move Wicked Blow was nerfed in Generation 9 from 80 base power to 75 base power. Calyrex Ice Rider and Calyrex Shadow Rider's signature moves Glacial Lance and Astral Barrage were nerfed in Generation 9 from 130 base power to 120 base power. Dondozo's signature move Order Up was nerfed so that it no longer gives Dondozo a stat increase if the move is hit into an opponent's Protect, starting in version 1.2.0 of Scarlet and Violet. Weezing's signature ability Neutralizing Gas was changed so that it does suppress the effects of Photosynthesis and Quark Drive starting in version 3.0.0 of Scarlet and Violet, although this can either be a nerf or a buff depending on how you look at it. And Xerneas' signature move Geomancy was nerfed so that it no longer works with the Power Herb. Oh wait, never mind, yeah, they never changed that. Alright, with the lightning round out of the way, let's get into more widespread mechanic changes that don't just affect one or two Pokemon. Starting off with Tyranitar, Politoed, and Ninetales being the reason that weather caused by abilities no longer last the entire battle. From Generation 3 to 5, weather caused by an ability lasted the whole battle unless it was overridden by another Pokemon's weather setting ability. This was changed starting in Generation 6 so that it only lasts 5 turns, or 8 turns if the user is holding one of these items. Tyranitar, Politoed, and Ninetales each had the abilities Sandstream, Drizzle, and Drought respectively, which allowed weather-based teams to abuse the heck out of the benefits of Sandstorm, Rain, and Sun. I'm not mentioning Abomasnow because Hail wasn't nearly as good as the other three, and I'd also like to mention Excadrill for probably being the biggest abuser of infinite weather in Generation 5 with its Sand Rush ability. Next is Liepard and Purrloin being the reason that Assist can no longer call moves that either switch the target out or have a semi-invulnerable turn. This was a very gimmicky strategy known as Dive Cats in Generation 5, and if you want a more in-depth explanation as to how it worked, I recommend this video from Wolfie VGC. To sum it up, Liepard and Purrloin would use Prankster Assist to call their allies' dive move, which while holding the Lagging Tail item, made them completely untouchable. Next is Sylveon and Mega Salamence being the reason that the abilities Pixelate, Aerolate, and Refrigerate were nerfed in Generation 7. All of these abilities do the same thing just for different types, which is cause all normal type moves to become a corresponding different type while receiving a 30% power boost. This was nerfed starting in Generation 7 to a 20% power boost, which also ended up affecting Normalize and Galvanize, two abilities that essentially do the same thing. Sylveon and Mega Salamence were by far the biggest abusers of these abilities, as they were able to throw out extremely powerful stab hyper voices, which, by the way, are spread moves in doubles. This unfortunately also affected Mega Glalie and Aurorus, which were not nearly as harsh of abusers of these abilities. Next is Rillaboom being the reason for Grassy Glide getting nerfed in Generation 9. While Grassy Glide wasn't Rillaboom's signature move, it was really the only Pokemon that got to take full advantage of it, due to it setting up its own grassy terrain with Grassy Surge, giving it +1 priority. In Sword and Shield, this move was 70 base power, which for a priority move is very high. It wasn't even made available at all in Scarlet and Violet at first, but was eventually brought back in the Indigo Disc DLC. In Data Mines, the move was shown to be 60 base power, but then was finally revealed to only be 55 base power after version 2.0.1 of Scarlet and Violet. Lastly, we have Greninja and Cinderace being the reason for the Protean and Libero abilities getting nerfed in Generation 9. These abilities are the same, just with different names, so I'm counting them both for this entry. Anyway, Greninja and Cinderace were some of the strongest Pokemon in the formats they were legal, partly due to their stats and move pool, but also because of their great abilities. Protean and Libero change the user's type to the move they are about to use, essentially giving them stab on all attacking moves. This ability was nerfed in Generation 9 so that the type change can only occur once per switch-in. It also has no effect at all if you're terastallized, since a terastallized Pokemon's type cannot be changed. And those are just some more Pokemon responsible for changing game mechanics. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with any of my reasonings, or if there were any Pokemon that I missed. Other than that, I really appreciate if you made it all the way to the end of this video. Thanks for watching.